Halloween is coming up, so let's talk about Adventure Time. Cause I feel like a lot of people don't bring up just how terrifying this show really was. Aside from that one episode none of us can shake. So to get into the Halloween mood, stay here as we discuss these scariest episodes in the franchise. To start us off, Mortal Recoil. Now I know some others will say that they didn't find this episode to be that scary. And while that's fine, let me explain to you why the first time I saw this filled me with so much fear. This episode pretty much consists of the very first appearance of the Lich, who, as most of you Adventure Time heads already know, is the physical embodiment of death and the destruction of all life, which honestly should sound pretty scary enough by itself, but that's not all there is to it. You see, in this episode we find out from Princess Bubblegum that the Lich had been defeated by Oo's previous hero Billy and was meant to stay trapped eternally within some tree sap, but Finn and Jake accidentally donk all that up and set the Lich free to cause destruction around the land of Ooh again. This episode does have its fair share of comic relief through characters like the Ice King, but in complete honesty even his arc is pretty creepy here, since this is long before we knew all the stuff we know now about Simon, and the Ice King is pretty much just trying to force Bubblegum to marry him. Anyways, while all that's happening, the Lich gets back to his well of power and raises an undead army to fight Finn and Jake with. And here is where the horror themes really start to show up in the episode, because once the Lich is able to use his dark magic and cast a genjutsu on Finn, we get our first real glimpse at how terrifying and inevitable this character can truthfully be. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, then Finn rips his freaking face off with a sweater, and Princess Bubblegum gets dropped into a vat of death juice by the Ice King accidentally. And like I said, I can see how this episode can be considered tame for some people, but for me, any scene with the Lich alone is enough to give me nightmares, especially in the second half when Princess Bubblegum gets possessed by the Lich. Finn may have been too much of a simp to notice, but 11-year-old me sure wasn't. But if that wasn't scary enough for you, look no further than our next episode, The Creeps. Now this is what many consider to be the prime Halloween episode for the series, and based upon what happens in it, I honestly can't disagree with that. You see, this one starts with us following our main characters Finn and Jake as they walk in thundering rain to a giant creepy mansion where they intend to meet all their friends for a party, but that party quickly turns into a murder mystery
As the ghost will possess one of our bots.
Not my bot.
when it is revealed that a ghost has possessed one of the guests. First we see Cinnamon Bun and Beemo get clapped, but all is part of a plan Finn had to prank Jake. But then Bubblegum gets got and we realize that Finn definitely didn't come up with that, and that all three of them are really gone. Then LSP gets put in a painting and Finn and Jake get separated, and Finn finally runs into that creepy ghost. And as he frantically tries to run away to the top of the mansion, escaping his impending death, Finn then realizes that all of it was a counter prank that Jake and everyone else were in on. Well, most of it was anyway. Besides all the jump scares and eerie pranks, I would say the way this episode really gives me the creeps is in all the questions it doesn't answer. Like, the episode itself never explains the mysterious encounter Finn had with the ghost lady, but we later find out that this was actually the ghost of his former self, Shoko, who actually ended up dying very similarly to how Finn would have if he kept trying to escape. Is that what triggered her to show up? Regardless, it sure was scary. Leading into our next pick, No One Can Hear You. Now this is the one we probably all remember the most, and really in all honesty it comes down to one character specifically. And while I personally don't agree that this is the scariest episode of Adventure Time, I'll take a second to explain why I can definitely understand how most consider it to be. Just like that, I'm already uncomfortable. Then the deer bonks Jake on the head and breaks both of Finn's legs, knocking him into a coma. Then Finn wakes up to an empty candy kingdom, with Jake explaining to him that everyone is hiding because they're throwing him a surprise birthday party. But something definitely isn't okay. After a whole day of waiting, Finn then finds out from Jake that he was in his coma for 6 whole months. And now Finn knows something is horribly wrong. So he tries to escape into a nearby well, and upon entering it, he finds every member of the candy kingdom stuck in some orange goo. Ugh. And at first we think Jake did all this, only to find out soon from Peppermint Butler that it was none other than the deer. Do I even need to say anything about this? Literally pure nightmare fuel. Anyways, they all end up ending the deer and then fly off into the night in order to go take showers. And yeah, actually, I take it back. That definitely was the most disturbing episode. But here's one that's scarier. Finn the Human. Now this is the episode of Adventure Time with the most existential horror in my opinion, as it rides directly off the coattails of the major events from the season 4 finale, when Finn teleported himself to a reality where the Lich never existed. And here we get to see just how quickly that ended up backfiring. As in this reality, Finn lives on a farm and has both of his parents still, and they need money, so they tell him to go sell his pet mule, and eventually he ends up stumbling across this reality's version of Marceline as well as the ice crown. He tries to sell the crown to a threatening gang that ends up taking it from him, and they then set fire and destruction to his entire town. In order to protect everybody, Finn then decides to put on the ice crown, but it ends up backfiring and driving him into madness. We are then given what is, in my opinion, the most terrifying moment in all of Adventure Time, the detonation of the mushroom bomb, where we then see the Lich's destructive essence melts Marceline down to a skeleton, and then the whole world is plunged into a cold, wintry darkness, ruled by the Lich and Finn as the Ice King. And like I said earlier, there is no episode of Adventure Time more terrifying. But that's just my opinion. What do you think was the scariest episode? Definitely make sure to leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments, and get this vid to 200 likes if you want to see a part 2 to this series. Happy holidays, I love you, Sun God signing off.